Welcome to the Lakeshow podcast presented by Jack in the Box. It's a weekly deep dive into the biggest stories and topics surrounding the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm Allie Clifton, joined by our Laker insider, Mike Bresnahan, our Lakers reporter, Mike Trudell, fresh off the trip, back in SoCal. How you doing?
Oh, it's great to be back, honestly. I have lived in several parts of the country, and this is the best one.
This is the best one.
I love Minnesota, love Chicago, love certain places in the East Coast, but there's something like, even at 2 a.m, we get off the plane last night and it's, about 68 degrees.
Beautiful.
And just very cool. Like there's a little bit of the kind of smoke in the air, which is not great this time of year with the fires, and hopefully everybody's doing okay with that. But yeah, just coming back here, Allie has kind of been, I've been getting re-energized. I've been kind of plugged in all day from California.
Eating all your kids' Halloween stash that they did?
I have had, I want to say, about 7 or 8 pieces of their candy today.
Okay. That was lunch.
But they had plenty.
Okay.
Yeah. We're just with the population density out here, and they were trick-or-treating around where you guys live. And, I mean, just one street, and their whole thing is full. Like, I think they both had pillow sacks that they were carrying around. So, yeah, there was plenty.
What's their favorite candy?
I don't know that they've established clear favorites at this point. I would say my new favorite candy. Have you guys had the Nerds gummy clusters?
Amazing. Put them in the refrigerator.
That's my new favorite. Oh, okay. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Actually, I can't. Producer B Moore, his wife, I had posted about them, and she literally sent that in my DM. She was just like, put them in the refrigerator. It was either refrigerator or freezer. I chose the refrigerator, and it is phenomenal.
Well,
they're so good.
If she chose B Moore, then she's clearly smart. So I would have to listen to her because he's a great guy. Yes. And then I think, you have to put 100 grand still, to me, towards the top of kind of like the chocolate.
Get a little bit of everything.
Wrong with the Reese's peanut butter cup and anything in the Reese's family. But yeah, I think that the candy that wasn't a part of our childhoods, which were all the classics, one of the few new ones is the Nerds gummy clusters. Because almost everything else we had when we were kids, right? Like candy's basically been monopolized by a couple of these companies forever. You know?
You don't like Whoppers, do you?
There isn't a candy that I don't like. Like, if it's there, I will eat it, but it's not near the top of the list.
Yeah. It's not what you were thinking about.
No, but if they're there and there isn't something else that I can choose over it, like let's say like a Hershey's Cookies and Cream, which is one of my favorites. Almost anything white chocolate, honestly. But if Whoppers are there and there isn't much else, am I going to eat them? Sure.
When the Lakers are in the Bay Area, do you go to Ghirardelli? I always do when I'm in San Francisco.
Yeah, at this point, Brez, so there are a couple places, and San Francisco is one of them now, and Vegas would be another, where the Lakers go at a bare minimum of twice a year, but then most likely again in the preseason. And then in the case of San Francisco, I've also been going for the California Classic. So I go there it feels like 5 or 6 times a year now.
It's a lot of Ghirardelli chocolate.
Yes, so and because you can buy the Ghirardelli chocolate at Target or wherever.
Yeah, that's true too.
I probably don't. I'm trying to think the last time I went. When we brought the boys up, when Annie and the kids came, which was last year in the spring, we took them there, and so that's the last time I've gone. But if I'm there solo with the team, then I'm probably just going to the meal room at this point.
I go there, I get the ice cream, I get the chocolate. I just go nuts.
Yeah,
I'm hopped up for days on Ghirardelli.
Well, now that you put it out like that, I feel like I have to go. When do the Lakers play at Golden State? It's not for a while, right?
Oh,
Christmas. There you go.
Is that the first one? Christmas?
And actually, we won't get there until. You know what? I don't know if I'll be going on Christmas Day.
Ghirardelli's out.
Is it open? Probably won't be open on Christmas Day. Okay, the next time that we go to San Fran.
To me, that is the North Pole, the Ghirardelli Square.
The last thing you're probably thinking about is going on another road trip. Mike, coming off
Get ready, though.
A tough one for the Lakers. We'll just start with this because I believe we have some sound off the top, and it'll kind of kick us into all Lakers things. Obviously, the Lakers dropped 4 of 5 on the road trip. Most recently, the 131-114 loss to Memphis. No AD, no Rui Hachimura in this contest. But despite 39 points from LeBron, they never led in the game. And JJ Redick had this observation after the game. Take a listen.
I think LeBron was fantastic tonight. I mean, the biggest thing that stood out, I mean, I had no idea he had 39 until I'm not looking at the box scores during the game, but, he played hard. He's almost 40 years old and played the hardest on our team. Says a lot about him.
I guess the natural follow-up to that is, I mean, what does that say about everyone else on a night like tonight when you guys were shorthanded? Were you satisfied with the effort that you got from everyone else?
None of us are.
Not satisfied. There was also a direct quote from JJ regarding the 22 minutes from D'Angelo Russell. Just a tough trip all in all. And we're going to start with you because obviously you were with the team and just kind of your takeaways.
Yeah, I want to rewind if I can before this trip. And so, of course, the Lakers start the regular season 3-0. But leading up to that, we were gone, and I say we, the traveling party, not as if I'm a member of the team, but we were gone for a good week, and it was Vegas to then a back-to-back at Phoenix and San Francisco. Speaking of San Francisco. And before that, there were the 2 games in Palm Springs. And so I think that, like, generally speaking, the preseason is always in Los Angeles. Maybe you have one odd game to Palm Springs or somewhere close like that you drive to. And so by the time you get to the regular season and maybe you get a home game or one home game, one road game to start, then usually in early November, there's that first trip. And I think at that point, everyone's kind of like, all right, let's go. Let's go on the road, get on the plane, like, let's get to these new cities. Let's see the atmosphere in these road environments and what that's like. And this year, this trip, this most recent trip, felt a lot more like the second trip in December when there's always the 2 long ones, or it seems like there always is, and it's just you're dragging. And would be the players, I think, by this point, or just you're trying to match and find that energy game to game in places that are excited to have the Lakers in town. So I did feel that on this trip, just myself, let alone what the guys were kind of saying in the locker room. So that says something about it. Now, at the same time, that's an excuse, right? And that's something that I think that you as a coaching staff particularly, and I think Redick was spot on there, that these are all things that you have to push out of your mind, and like LeBron did in that last game, and sort of, especially if you've lost a couple of games beforehand. But I'm just acknowledging that I'm trying not to judge the Lakers too harshly on this trip for some of those reasons. And I think that now 6 of 8 games at home, a lot of winnable games, like I think they can reclaim what they found to start the season, and they're 4-4, right? It's not like they're what Brez a couple years ago. What was it, like 2-10 or something?
Yeah, it was awful.
So so it's not like we're not there yet, and that's you get there by winning those first 3 games against good teams in the West. And like Memphis was beatable because they had some guys out. Detroit, I think, is a lot better than people realize. But like, is it a winnable game if the Lakers play better with the intensity of the second half defense that they play in the first quarter? Sure. So you leave some things on the table, but overall, I don't think that it's the level of exhaustion that probably everybody felt getting off of that plane. I don't think it's anywhere near the circumstances of like what's going on, what's wrong, how can this be fixed. I think that a lot of this will start to take care of itself in this home stretch.
Which is why we start with you for that kind of perspective and insight, of course, because I was going to ask. Obviously, you start the trip 3-0, and now you come back, as you mentioned, Trudell 4-4. Which is currently, as we're taping this, 10th in the West. I want to get your thoughts on that because I think the one thing, just listening to JJ last night, and actually after every loss that they've had, I feel like there is this same underlying frustration, like he could just throw that microphone at you. Not at you, but the first person sitting in that front row, and it is you.
Yeah.
In the line of fire, Mike.
Which by the way, I just love that because like that's how I feel if we were to play, if we were to shoot free throws right now, and like I made 7 and you made 8, like I would be pissed.
Yeah, right.
So I relate to that. I think a lot of people can relate to that, and Laker fans. So like I am totally on board with that. But please, I'll stop interjecting. I just talked for like 4 minutes straight.
And just my observation there is that. And I think he's also made it very known, like there are non-negotiables, and that's effort. That's a non-negotiable, and also the attention to detail. Mm-hmm. Like those are the things he has said from day one. And so when you see and you hear from him last night, specifically the Memphis game, as this will come out 2 days ago, that's just something that does not sit well with him. After that, there are things that you can live with as a coach, but those are 2 that you cannot, and that's the most recent thing. So are you panicked?
I'm not panicked.
4-4?
Big picture, what the Lakers, they don't want to become like that Golden State team. Was it last year or 2 years ago?
Right now, they should be.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
7-1.
But it was that weird.
Anyone would sign up for that.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. It was
where they were winning everything at home and not winning on the road.
Exactly. That weird anomaly of a season. And the Lakers had the 10th best road record last season. And you've got to try to improve upon that. So to be 3-0 at home and 1-4 on the road, that's a huge disparity. I think it'll straighten out a little bit, but they really need to be good on the road, because I really think that they need to stay out of the play-in tournament. They need to be a top 6 team, because as we saw, from last year, you got to play that extra game, and then you're going to have a tough first-round matchup. They got lucky a couple years ago with a favorable matchup against Memphis. Not so lucky last year with a tough matchup against a still intact Denver team. They just got to win some more road games. It's easier said than done. They probably would have beaten Memphis with AD. I really think they would have. 2-3 sounds a lot better than 1-4, but that's what it says in the win-loss and road and home records, too. You've got to be better on the road.
And Allie just referenced the standings, right? And so the Lakers now, I think, tied for 10th or tied for 9th, or same thing. And had they won that game, and sure, if AD plays, we can do the
probably would
if and all that, then they're 5-3, and that's tied for 4th in the conference.
First round bye.
All of the teams are packed in there. So, but I think what you don't want to do is, to me, Bresnahan, it's less about. Of course, everybody wants to avoid the play-in.
Yeah.
That's job number one. But to me, it's less about the specific place in the standings and more about like not having to, all of a sudden it's the All-Star break and you have to go 21-7 just to get in that mix. Like, because I think that on any given night, LeBron can crank it up like he did in Memphis. But can he, or literally any athlete in the history of humankind, crank it up at that age every night? At age 39, nor he should not be able to. And so if you're in that mix and win 3 games and you're the 4 seed, like just having it in sight, and that's it. They do have that right now relative to the last couple of seasons. But now is where, like, yes, if you don't do the job on the road, then these home games that I'm sure we'll get to, those kind of crank up in importance just a little bit. And I think that will be reflected in the players, and I think especially after a night where JJ Redick explicitly names effort. Throw everything else out, execution, which he's of course right about, but when the coach and the new coach says, that was not good enough for me. He said it post-game in the locker room. A couple of players referenced this. Austin Reeves said it on camera. JJ alluded to it himself. So that has to come in the first quarter of the next game. And then, you say, well, what if it doesn't? Then what? I don't think we'll get to that point, because I think that these guys they're professionals. They want to win every game, Allie. But when they hear that from a coach that they respect, I think you'll get the response, and then that can start to work in their favor in the standings.
Also, film doesn't lie, and I imagine that they will be watching film. I do want to get your thoughts on, in terms of biggest concerns from the road trip. Can we start on the defensive end? We do have some numbers, and I think that was something that really stood out in terms of glaring for the Lakers away from home. When you see those rankings all at the bottom when it comes to defensive rating, opponent points allowed at 123 almost, tied for 28th. On the fast break, the points in the paint allowed, which as we know offensively, they're top 5, or they were going in to the Memphis game themselves. What stood out to you there, Bress?
I think it's okay to give up 134 to Cleveland. That's a little high, but that team is whomping everybody right now. I mean, it's unbelievable what that team's doing, and they can stick it to you, either in the front court or the back court. They got some good bench scoring too. I think the problem for me was giving up 131 to Memphis. That's a lot for a team with no Desmond Bane and no Marcus Smart, and you lose John Morant for the rest of the game late in the third quarter. To still get to 131, that seemed a little egregious to me, and that's when I think the effort came in that second half, and the team. It's kind of a loss of attrition. AD and Rui, they're going to help you defensively, AD in particular, right? But yeah, I think that the defensive points allowed, that's just too much for me against that team in particular.
I've come a long way on net rating in offensive and defensive rating. And so 10 years ago, nobody was using these terms at all. And then I think a certain segment of basketball Twitter started to catch up with the coaches that have been starting to use that. And to the point where midway through the season, if you're not in the top 10 in defense, it's going to be harder for our team to win in the postseason, that kind of stuff. And I think there's validity to it. But now that it's become more popularly understood, I think we go way too far on it, and especially in pulling a sample size. To me, this is where the way I would explain this is, if you look at a team like OKC, for example, right? They're mostly 27 and under. They've got 12 guys all really talented. That's a team that's destined to have a ridiculous net rating because they're playing hard the whole game. The talent is there. They have a lot to prove. They haven't won the playoff series yet. Like they're going to go through that whole season with the pedal down, and that's when like you could be if you're the Lakers and you're up by 15 going into the fourth quarter, and then all right, we got LeBron, we got AD, let's back off a little bit. Then all of a sudden for that game, your net rating is going to be like even by the time you get through it, just because the other team's going to catch up in garbage time. So like this Laker team with LeBron, especially in where he's at, and then even with AD and his veteran status, I'm not looking too closely at it. I'm more thinking like, what is the personnel that they have on the court, and can they ramp it up defensively when they need to in the right matchups? And so I'm going to kind of in a long winding road get to the point where there are concerns there that are legitimate regardless of what the defensive rating is. And that to me is more personnel based. And we know on the perimeter, like Austin and D'Lo, even though I think Austin's been pretty good defensively, that's not a defensive backcourt to start, right? LeBron can absolutely be an amazing defender, but like all 82 games, that when he has to carry what he does offensively, is he going to be? He's not out there to be a defensive stopper where you're sticking him on the
2012 LeBron.
Yeah, right. And he can, that's the crazy thing is he can be, and he in the fourth quarter, but he's doing too much. AD does do all of that, but he's also now leading the league in scoring.
Yeah,
and that's an additional load. And then you come off the bench and you get some defense, but it's young. Like Max Christie's 21, right? Gabe is still getting into a rhythm after barely playing last season. They don't have their best perimeter defender yet, Jared Vanderbilt. So I would have expected the defensive rating to be lower. Not as low as we saw on the trip, but that to me was more circumstantial, like JJ said, where the effort wasn't good enough in Cleveland. The effort wasn't good enough early in Detroit. The effort wasn't good enough in the second half against Toronto. And that puts you from like, maybe 18th as to where I think they probably could be to 28th. Or 30th, whatever it was. Forgive me for the long diatribe there on the numbers part of it, but I'm just more thinking personnel. Do they have enough when Vanderbilt's back? Maybe, but they could probably still use a little more help in the front court.
Well, that's what I'm hanging on to, and that's kind of my next question. We're 8 games in. I'm not necessarily saying you make a starting lineup change, but do you see a rotational change coming? For example, we saw a little bit more of Cam Reddish over the last couple games. Is that someone, when you think of defense, he's certainly capable. He's got the length, he's got the athleticism to benefit and help you. Of course, we have the numbers for Cam over his last 2 games, averaging 7.5, 71% shooting, 5.5 boards. Team best, if you follow plus minus, he's a +5 in that category. Is that something you could potentially see?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a possibility for that, especially if Max Christie keeps shooting under 30% overall. I mean, that's just a crushing number for him and for me personally, because I really thought he was going to have a nice breakout year. James Worthy had a really good idea on the postgame show last night. The bench is obviously struggling, the lowest scoring bench in the league. He said, okay, shorten the minutes at the start of the first and third quarter for a guy like Austin Reeves, and have him join that second unit earlier. Maybe inject a little life into them. Do it 4 minutes, and that's a little light. 5 or 6 minutes into the first quarter, he goes for a rest. Boom, he's back in at the end of the quarter, ready to roll, and kind of give a little offense to that unit that needs it so badly, with Gabe Vincent misfiring a lot. Max, like I said, not shooting well. They really need some points more than anything else. And I think that's how you do it. I think it was a really good idea by James.
I thought JJ made a good point about bench scoring I'm trying to remember if this was the pregame or the postgame on the strip. These all start to
pregame.
mold. Okay, thank you, Allie. Start to mold together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that, the pregame.
I just remember you talking about it in the pregame with us in the second your D segment.
See, thank you, Allie. Thank you for being here.
I pay attention.
Yeah.
I really do.
That's good. That's well done.
I'm really
okay.
impressed.
And I think that
I also read you 3 things to know every game too.
There you go. Well, his point, and if Allie thankfully can correct me if I get this wrong, as we know, since she's on top of this. His point was like, he doesn't, and nor do I think we should, just look at the raw scoring total of what this bench does versus that bench. And I think his point, to try to make it a little more succinctly, is it's about usage. And if you have either LeBron or AD, and then either Austin or D'Lo with them, which you do at all times on this team, they're going to carry the bulk of the scoring load. They just are. You're not asking Jackson Hayes or Gabe Vincent or Max Christie to come in and score the basketball much. Maybe
you're also not doing AAU substitutions where you're going, here's your starting five, and your starting five is coming out. Now you got 5 bench guys coming in,
not a
and
hockey
that's
game.
the number.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the same thing with usage, right? Like that's who has the basketball. And, Brez, when we were covering the Kobe, Powell, Lamar, Bynum, Phil was still using basically a full bench, and maybe Kobe or Powell would stay out with it, but it was like, and so therefore Jordan Farmar is going to get shots up. Shannon Brown's going to get some shots up. Sasha Vujacic is going to get shots up. Like on this bench, like they're just not going to score that much, nor do they need to. With that said, could you use a little bit more pop from, say, Dalton Connect, who I think is the most capable of doing it? Yes, and I think that he will, but he's also a rookie, and he's also figuring out, okay, now I'm playing with LeBron. Like, where does he want me to go? What does he want me to do? Am I just catching and shooting, or can I take somebody off the dribble? Like, so that's a long way of saying that I don't worry too much about the raw numbers of it, but it's a little bit like what you were talking about the defense. It's a little bit more like the personnel. Is the personnel good enough for this bench unit to get things done? And how does that evolve when you get a Christian Wood back? And we'll see, where Christian's at with his rehabilitation. I'm guessing soon we'll probably hear something. And where's Vanderbilt at? And then, well, you're going to get offense from Wood. You're going to get defense from Vanderbilt. Where do you veer? Right? And then who comes out of that group? So a lot of questions still that I think shouldn't be that much of a surprise given where we're at in the season. Again, it's at least, thankfully for the Lakers, they won those first 3 home games.
Right. Because
it's a whole different discussion even if you go 2-1, and then all of a sudden you're already looking way up in the standings in terms of just catching up.
Yeah.
So but these are questions that I think the coaching staff is taking a lot of care with thinking about, and I think they're going to have some answers to.
Well, I think we're going to have those answers really quickly as well in terms of rotations or lineup changes, just based off, nothing has been confirmed as a change coming, but just based off of the emotion from JJ in the postgame last night. And it'll come as early as Friday. The 3-game homestand begins with the Philadelphia 76ers, who, oh, by the way, are 1-6. They're going to be without Joel Embiid, serving game 2 of his 3-game suspension. Tyrese Maxey got injured last night, expected to miss a couple of weeks with a hamstring injury. Must win. I'm only going to throw that out there because AD called those 3 games, the final 3 games, must win. And so I'm going to take that attitude as well.
So the Lakers owe him a must win. That's what you're saying.
The way that I look at,
do we see AD again? AD and Rui back?
Don't know. I certainly hope so. JJ hinted, and this was the pregame. Allie, I know this one for sure. He hinted that like part of, I think, the calculation in him not playing in Memphis is so he really gets the heel, the foot, the whole area, a chance to kind of like get the 48 hours and get it a chance to just calm down, so that he can play. And if it were a playoff game, that kind of thing, could he play on it? I think so. But yeah, we'll see. I'm guessing it'll be a game time decision. It'll probably be like my first say. It'd be like, Mike, what do we know about?
I'll be with you, so that'll be
Dr. Mike.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, there you go. So that's part of it. But I think this is more of a, in terms of like the must wins. I like the spirit of when a player says must win. But I'm not going to hold it to them literally, like in terms of it. There's 1 game to go, and if you win, you're the 6th seed, and if you lose, you're the 11th seed, like or something like that. If all the teams are that tightly bunched, that would literally be a must win. Or like a playoff elimination game is literally so. Actual must wins are only literary. Yes, you heard me the first time. Literal. Thank you. But in this sense, like I do think that they're. If you can have the players kind of hype up the importance of something, that's great. It's just that let's say you then lose that game, then when you call it something else, a must win 2 weeks later, it chips away at that notion a little bit. So you have to be careful how often you go to the well.
Can't go to the well that early.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Was there?
He might sit out Friday, and here's the only reason I say that, because Philly's coming in here with not a lot of talent. You've got two studs out.
Great. They're going to clip this. They're going to put it in their locker room.
Well, so maybe AD can cheat a game, rest up even more. Now, you take a little gamble, but I think they have enough talent to beat Philly without him.
So I hear what you're saying. I don't think that players generally look at it like that. It's more like, can I play literally? No matter who's on the opponent's side or not, And as I say that, Brez, you're looking at me like, well, yeah, but it happens all the time. You're right. You're right. It does happen a lot. But like I think the way that I like it in an ideal world is like either my body is good to go or it's not. And the stakes of it, do they come into play at this point of the season? Somewhat. Maybe. Okay. But is that, how much is that? Is it 5%? Like to me, it's still much more about like, I got on the court. I don't have pain. I'm going to play. Now, can you factor?
Ideally. Sure.
Yeah, ideally, but let's say you are factoring in. Okay, it's the Celtics, the defending champs. They're coming in here versus it's the Sixers that you just mentioned without probably without their two best players.
Sure.
Take your pick between Maxey and Paul George, and like does that factor in a little bit? I don't know. I feel like every game is important in the NBA, and when you're coming back from a 1-4 trip. And if AD doesn't play, as LeBron told us, Allie, if AD doesn't play, Lakers aren't guaranteed to beat anybody.
Yeah.
They're just not. He is that important to what they do defensively, particularly. And he's literally leading the NBA in scoring right now. And if you don't have that, they've got Paul George. They've got some vets. They got Kelly Oubre, Kyle Lowry. Maybe he breaks out a blast from the past type performance. Now they don't have any other guards behind him with Maxey out.
Right.
But like they're
That's
pros, man. Like we just saw the Memphis played 3 guys that played for the South Bay Lakers, and they all played pretty well. Castleton barely played. That was more at the end. But Jay Huff and Scottie Pippen Jr.
They're having good years.
So these guys can all play in the NBA. And if you take that approach and you're somebody who's as important as Anthony Davis, and I guess what I liked about AD last season is that in a lot of those situations where he was carrying something that was bugging him, he typically played.
Yeah.
And he played 76 games. Left the 2 of them, and of course they lost both of those. It was the Golden State game, the Minnesota game when he got hit in the eye in the first quarter, and the Lakers did not do well in those games, any of them. I think what were they, like 2-8 or something?
Is that what it was?
Or that wouldn't be 2-8, 2-6 maybe.
Well, it's sensible
Something like
because
that,
he's that good on any team.
Yeah. So let's do the math. So that would have been, so it's 8 games that including the ones that he would have left early. And I think they won the Boston game when he and LeBron were both out, and then there was one other game I think that they won, and the rest of them they lost without AD in the court.
That Boston game where Jared Vanderbilt got hurt.
Exactly, yeah, and he was amazing in the first half, right? And then he gets hurt at half, right before the second for the second half. So
I would like the 32 plus points, the 12 rebounds plus from AD, the 3 blocks, the presence offensively. Yeah, just come on back.
Well, who else are you going to pick in the pregame too?
I took him even when he was out last night.
Mike, you pay attention too. That's impressive.
We're still going to go with AD.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I like
what
that.
did Big Game say? Oh, you think he's going to be working the iPad? So funny.
Loyalty is important. I like that, Allie. That's good.
That it is. Lakeshow fans, remember, we're loyal to you. You can be a part of this show each week. Feel free to send us your questions and comments. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's around a bucket of brick.
You were practicing.
Welcome back to the Lakeshow podcast presented by Jack in the Box. If you're enjoying the show, you can check out more original podcasts from our Spectrum News journalists on the Spectrum News app. Just head to the podcast section to listen to the latest episodes. You can download the Spectrum News app on the App Store or Google Play. Time for a round of Bucket or Brick. It's presented by Jack in the Box. We mentioned LeBron's 39-point game at the start of the pod. You may have heard that he turns 40 in just over 1 month. Bucket or brick, LeBron will score 40 or more in a game at least one more time before he turns 40. 40 before 40.
Who's first, Allie?
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay.
I was going to say Mike,
That is
but you're both Mike.
easy bucket.
Yeah?
There's no question. I mean, he just got I don't want to call it an easy 39, but he got 39, and JJ Redick didn't even realize it, as he said in his post game. So there's no question that he can crank it up. And I think all it takes is a night where he's hitting the 3, which shot 42% from 3 last year. He just made, 5?
6.
Thank you, 6 in Memphis. See, Allie's got all kinds of good fact checks. Usually that's my job. I appreciate you being on top of it. So, yeah, that to me is not, to me, Brez, I would be shocked if he doesn't get 40 at least once.
See, I'm going to brick it, and here's why. I think AD's the guy who's going to be scoring more 40s than anyone on this team. And I think it's going to be by a large margin.
Both things can be true.
Both things can be true. That's
He
true.
only
Imagine if they
needs
each get
one.
40. That's crazy.
Just one game. Remember that Sacramento game?
AD will no doubt score more, but I just think, Allie said he's only got to do it once.
Well, has he even broken 30 with AD in the lineup? I don't think he has yet, right? So,
Yeah.
Has he?
The Sacramento game.
Okay.
Yeah, he had 30
Remember when he had 16 straight points?
in the fourth quarter?
That's
Yeah.
right.
I think he had
Fourth quarter.
32 or 34 that night.
Okay. I think as long as AD's in the lineup, he's going to have a hard time. LeBron's going to have a hard time scoring 40. And I'm counting on AD coming back. So maybe not the Philly game, but we will see.
I'm actually not mad about that because that means AD's back. Okay.
Yeah.
Christian Coloco with a bit of a feel-good moment in Memphis. His first NBA game in over a year as he recovered from blood clots. He finished with 2 points, 2 boards, and a block in 13 minutes against the Grizzlies. Bucket or brick, Coloco will play this Sunday against his original NBA team, the Raptors.
It was, by the way, it's 32. Thank you, Allie, against Sacramento. Just to fact check myself.
Ron? Oh, yeah.
Yep. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm gonna brick this because I think AD will be back by that time. Even if he takes off Friday's game, which I'm not predicting he will, just if he does, he's back for sure. Sunday, that'll give him like 6 days of rest, and Coloco will probably be third string center. And I just don't know if he's going to get in the game with AD and Jackson Hayes taking up a lot of those minutes.
Yeah, so we learned that AD is going to be listed as probable for the game against Philly. And in that sense, and I think JJ's been clear about this, like, yes, he wants to most often play a 9-man rotation. And Jackson Hayes is the backup big in that sense. And we know that sometimes LeBron will guard backup centers too. So with that said, that would be the reason for a brick. Now, could he, if let's say AD gets in early foul trouble or Jackson Hayes comes in, and then I think those are the times where he is the next kind of backline defender, the rim protector. He can come in and give you 5-10 minutes of that. And maybe you can even use that, and it's still a 9-man rotation, but hey, the defense has not been good here. Let's throw Coloco out there to have him sort of protecting the rim, and then let's use AD on the perimeter more to shut down some of the wings, and as we've seen them do even in like the 1-3-1 zone, something like that. So I think you could see spot minutes for Coloco just because of the skill set that he has, but it's not going to be a normal everyday type of the rotation thing.
Got it. The latest here, Bronny James has been assigned to the South Bay Lakers in the G League. He's expected to make his debut Saturday at 5 o'clock against Salt Lake City. It's already sold out, but of course you can catch the game here on Spectrum SportsNet. Bucket or brick, Bronny will score in double digits in that game.
That's easy bucket. I mean, he hasn't had the time maybe that the other G League guys have had practicing with the South Bay Lakers, but yeah, I mean, G League defenses are like all-star games times 7. Just not a lot of attention to it. High-scoring games, fun to watch actually. Yeah, I think he'll hit double figures for sure.
I'm going to bucket as well. I don't think it's going to be quite as easy, only because Bronny is not a chucker. He's not going to come out with this mindset of, oh, it's sold out. It's my first G League game. Like, here, I'm scoring 20. Give me the ball. He's going to play the right way. He's going to defend. He's going to move the ball on. If he's not open, he's not going to force a shot. Most of the shots that I feel like we've seen Bronny take when he's coming in late in games are sort of end of the shot clock and nothing has materialized. So, okay, now I have to attack. But he wants to play basketball the right way. We know where he learned how to do that. So I think, though, that he's going to get real minutes, and the Lakers are, as well they should be, really devoted to developing Bronny on top of the other young prospects that they have drafted over the years. And therefore, the usage, I think, will be enough for him to get to double figures. But if he has, 7 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block, like that's I think going to be a more typical Bronny type of stat line where he's not out there trying to score and trying to chuck.
Love it. A 3-way tie atop the West. OKC, Phoenix, and Golden State. They're all 7-1. Bucket or brick, OKC will not earn the #1 seed in the West this season.
That's a brick, meaning that they will earn the #1 seed.
It was meant to confuse us, I think.
Yeah, I think that they are clearly the best regular season team in the West. We'll see in the playoffs, like once they get a team that maybe has a little bit more size, although they did add Isaiah Hartenstein, and when he comes back, that helps solve that. But they are a phenomenal defensive team right now, even though I was kind of taking a little bit of a chip out of the defensive rating argument earlier. Their defensive rating is absurd. I think it's like 93 per 100 possessions right now. They come in off the bench with Alex Caruso, who to me is a first-team All-NBA type defender, and that's while they're starting Lou Dort and Chet at the rim and like Cason Wallace. Like they're relentless. So they will separate themselves, I think. It's been a great start for Golden State, impressive. Great start for Phoenix, but I think they'll come back to earth a little bit. They've had easier schedules, and OKC will start to separate.
Yeah, I agree. They will be the top seed. You mentioned Hartenstein. That's their big free agent acquisition of the entire offseason.
And they gave up nothing to get him.
Yeah,
really. It's like, man, ridiculous.
It was free agent, right? Or was he a trade?
So the Knicks had to. I think in order to make the money work, they had to do some sort of sign and trade type thing. But he could have gone, I think, where he wanted, and OKC kind of set it up.
He signed for big money for quite a few years, and he hasn't even set foot on the court yet. He got hurt in the preseason or during whatever he was doing during the offseason.
Yeah.
Once he gets there, that's even more beef for that front court. That's pretty formidable. Yeah, they'll be the number 1 seed.
The Sixers and Bucks are both 1-6 to start the year.
That's crazy.
Bucket or brick, at least one of these teams will miss the play-in tournament and playoffs entirely.
Oh, that's spicy. Brez, go ahead.
I'm going to bucket this. I've been a big...
Doc says they will make the playoffs, and he's not worried about it.
Yeah, I am. And I follow the Bucks. Having gone to school there, I've got a couple Bucks friends who either work for the organization or have season tickets.
Every year I'm there. Barry comes up to me.
Barry Baum.
Barry's like, Mike Bresnahan. Eager to talk about those Badgers.
Yeah. I'd be a little worried about them if I was a Bucks fan because there's not a lot of greatness going on right now with that team. Surprisingly, you get Chris Middleton back, presumably at some point in the near future, but Mike, I don't think they make it.
So, Allie, just to be clear, because this is an important question and an excellent question, are you saying like they get one of the 8 seeds basically? So
they will
they
miss
just have
the
to get
play-in tournament and playoff.
So that's
they don't
like
even
they-
make top
11
10.
through
they wouldn't
15.
even make the play-in tournament.
Yeah.
I am still gonna break this slightly.
No, can you give 10 teams ahead of one of those 2 teams?
Well, that's the thing because
hard.
like we have Washington, Toronto, Charlotte,
Bad.
Chicago and Brooklyn.
Chicago might make it.
Chicago right now is what, 6?
Chicago's 3 and
Nets are
5.
3?
Yeah.
They're 8th. There's a bunch of teams. They're all tied in that kind of morass. Like as bad as Milwaukee is, poorly as Milwaukee is playing, like they still have Giannis. Like I think they're going to be fighting in that mix, but I don't think that they will miss the actual top 10 because it's also they are 100% desperate to do so.
Yeah.
And like Chicago can say, all right, we had one injury, let's get in the Cooper Flag business or something. So I just think enough of those teams don't have that motivation, even though there isn't a clear distinction. So I'm still going to say that both of them end up getting into that like play-in.
Does Milwaukee have their first rounder? Do we know?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I can check in 2 seconds.
If they do,
they have very few of their picks for the next like 10 years, right?
Okay. No, they made a lot of.
I think the Pelicans have their pick from the
Okay.
Drew Holiday trade.
Okay.
And yeah, the Pelicans have their pick. Now it might be like top 2 or 3 protected or something, but the
How
Pelicans
did you get
have
that
their
so
pick.
fast? What are you looking at?
So Tankathon has
Yeah, such a great site.
has like who has everybody's picks at least just for this next season.
By the way,
that was like the quickest way
I
to look
am
that
in
up.
season
So like
13,
You
and
don't
that's
know
the first
Tankathon?
time I've ever heard of
That's great.
Tankathon.
That's great.
Oh, okay. It's a good resource for something like that, or so we know. So the Hawks we know have the Lakers pick, right? The Thunder have the Clippers pick. The Spurs have the Bulls pick. The Thunder have the Heat's pick. The Thunders have everybody's picks.
I've never been
and
on a
so
team. I've never had to cover a team.
Allie,
I guess
because
where I
you've
cared
been
about
around a lot of good teams. That's great. Lucky
Well,
you.
Brez and I are experts in Tankathon from that stretch between
Right.
Kobe and LeBron.
I was gonna say my first 2
yeah.
years in the league, I was on.
And by the
those
way-
teams were not great, but I was just trying to make the flights on time.
Yeah, you never heard of Bleed for Embiid or
no.
Riggin for
You've
Wiggins?
seen- God,
You've
no.
seen the videos of like Geeter jumping into James's arms like a baby.
Yeah. My first year here, when we were talking about the what do you call that? The lottery.
The lottery.
We had a lottery show.
What
I
do you
was like,
call it?
what
Yes,
is
it's called
this?
the lottery.
I love that.
this?
That is amazing. You've led
Okay.
a good career, a good charmed career life.
I did start with the Timberwolves before I came to the Lakers, so
wow.
I had an education
Post
on
KG, right?
how it worked.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I had 1 year at KG, 1 year without KG. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mike, you just finished a 5-game road trip. No back-to-backs. Oddly, no games over the weekend. So you got 4 nights in Toronto. Bucket or brick, Toronto is a top 5 NBA city when you're on the road.
I have spent many hours debating this on the bus with Michael and Billy, and what you're looking at me.
You're going to give me 5 better cities than Toronto?
I haven't said that yet, but
I feel like it.
Oh, you're bricking.
Yeah.
Wow.
and I love Toronto. Toronto's
I didn't ask
close.
about the meal room.
Toronto's close for me. And here's where some of my bias will come in, though, because like I'm going to have a city that most will not.
Okay.
And that city, you could
Minnesota.
probably guess, is, well, the city being Minneapolis.
That's a good city.
And so that kind of makes my list a little tougher to get to. But I have Chicago.
Okay.
On there, I have New York on there. I don't think a lot of people will argue with the Chicago and New York. And then I have Minneapolis, and you know, I hate to just include
not hearing Miami. Yeah.
because everybody else is. I do like Miami, but there are a couple of cities that like I like to throw in there. Portland is one that I really enjoy going
Because of the Nike store, right?
Look, I'm not going to say why. that could be part. There are other things there as well.
Cool hotel.
But yeah, Toronto would be right on the precipice of that, but it's not quite in the top 5.
Who else is? Who's your 5 then?
I just gave you 5.
That's 4.
Miami,
Portland, New York.
Chicago.
Oh, you said Miami.
Yeah.
Okay, so Miami's top 5. Okay.
Yeah, Minneapolis.
Yeah, it's absolutely in my precipice. It's or whatever fancy word you just used, because it is there. It is top 5 for me. Probably after New York, Chicago, Miami. Probably number 4 for me. Toronto is absolutely a top city. Allie, you agree, right?
It's right there. It's a great city. And you know, as a Minnesotan,
I
I'm
would
kind of
take
an
that
honorary
listed,
Canadian.
except
Where did
Minnesota would be my Cleveland.
Minnesota's a good city. Top 10.
Joakim Noah would disagree?
Minneapolis.
He came back and said that was not true. That he just hated LeBron so much for getting his tail kicked all the time.
It's just a funny clip.
It is a funny clip.
But
I would take
respect
Portland out and put Toronto. But everything else I would align with.
If you're making me choose overall between Portland and Toronto as a city overall, I will take Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's just Toronto doesn't have the Nike store.
Well,
with the discounts.
Here's the thing. There's another
with
city that has a Nike store
coupons.
that I won't name, but I'll tell you later.
Okay.
That's
But
the secret
no,
Nike store.
I was kind of just Portland's also just really easy and convenient, like airport to hotel to arena. It's all right there. There's a movie theater you can walk to next to the hotel that we stay at. There's a really good restaurant right in that. So it's more than just that.
Yeah.
You can there's a train that goes right in front of the hotel. You can take that to different places. It's super convenient. So I like it, but I can't in good faith argue that I would rather be there
train my
than
first
Toronto.
year.
Oh yeah.
Which is why I don't know
that's
about
scary.
Tankathon, because I was lost on a train in Portland, just trying to make the
You don't know
planes from
Trainathon
city to
either.
city.
Yeah.
What were you doing? Because I know it wasn't watching.
I tried to go to the
TV
mall.
shows.
I
Oh,
tried
okay.
to be like adventurous Allie, like Miss Ohio, never left.
Oh, no.
10,000 people, Van Ord,
That's a
Ohio.
Netflix
Did you
show.
tell Brez about how you didn't quite take the right path back to the area that you live in from the arena a couple weeks ago?
Should we tell this story?
I don't know if we have time.
We'll end the podcast with this. Do you
Okay.
actually have time? You got to get your voice.
No,
Okay.
good.
So the last time I was down at the arena, there was the World Series was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And Trudell and I and John Ireland were on a text chain with our boss, AJ. And he texted us and said, if you are leaving the arena, there is road closures at such and such and such and such. It was a great text, right? And we're getting ready to go into the post-game press conference with JJ. And I look at Trudell and I'm like, so where do you go? Like, how do you get home? Because we both live in obviously the same area. So we're going the same direction. And I'm like, how do you go? What does this mean? What roads do I need to take? And he asks me if I had seen the SNL skit. What is it? Because I haven't. I've never seen SNL.
Californians?
Yeah, the Californians, yeah.
Yeah. And so basically I said no, because I haven't seen anything. And he proceeds to do that skit on the wall
Nice.
in the arena for me and tells me, you're going to get off this exit and go here. If not, you're going to have to get off here and go here. Basically, right?
Well, Allie may or may not have confused what AJ had said in the text about one of the major freeways. That she
I forgot
thought
about
was
that part.
so basically she thought that the 110 was the 10.
Oh,
I thought they were the same thing.
It
You missed a
was the
number.
same thing.
I get it. You
And
missed
so
a digit.
I just did the very simple, like, okay, here's, and I did like a square, right? And like, okay, here's the 10, here's the 105, here's the 110, here's the 405, right? And this people that have been here for a while kind of know what that, they're generally moving, 2 are moving north and south, 2 are moving east and west.
Yes.
And I just try to lay that out. And so I was like, okay,
Mind
so
you,
Allie,
I'm in year 7 of living here,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until last year that I didn't need my GPS to get home from games.
now, in fairness, though, like
okay.
you go to, I don't know, 10, 15 games a year.
Oh, yeah, we split. Yeah. 20
Yeah,
games.
so it ends
20 or
up,
so.
so not
15 to
that
20.
many. So so I go downtown a lot more than you do, first of all, and so I'm not. But the fact that it was just the whole not recognizing which highway was which.
the 10 is
that
not
was
the
the starting
110.
point for us.
Okay.
But but we get there. We get you on the right roads.
And I'm like, oh, I know this?
And
I've seen that
you
exit.
Get on the 105 to
Yeah.
the point which heads straight to LAX for people
Yeah.
that don't live here and are listening. And so then I get a text. Well, I've been home for about 15 minutes.
Come on.
And we left at the
Come
same
on.
time. And I get a text, and it's a picture of the LAX tunnel of like Allie going this would be going northbound through the LAX tunnel, which is
Trouble.
the opposite direction. And she, I can't remember exactly
He
what she said.
basically is like, at what point did you realize you weren't going the right way? And I was like, well, when I was passing Delta.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I realized.
Like, do you have a flight to Cleveland? Do you have a red eye to Cleveland or
Yeah,
something?
where
I
you
was
up
like,
to?
Trudell, I was so close.
Like, aren't you already in the Hall of Fame at your high school? Like, why are you going back now?
I know exactly what you did.
Yeah.
You stayed on the 105 and you got off on Sepulveda North
Yeah.
instead of Sepulveda South.
There's a south? You didn't tell me that. I just got off when you told me I was supposed to
But
get
I'm
off.
like, how do you ever get home? Like, shouldn't you know? Yeah. I figured
We're
once you
already
got to the
traffic
place
really
where
bad?
you live, then you would know where to go. But it's
Is
fine.
that I then proceeded to put that on the big text chain.
Yeah.
And
Was there like a
AJ
long...
or John Ireland did not respond. they
They were sleeping.
Like, this idiot.
They've been home for 2 hours probably. Was there a long line at the airport?
There
was
was
there a lot of
no
cars?
Google Maps because I don't use Google Maps. I use Apple Maps, and I don't have Waze, and there was no way that would tell me of the 2 exits that were closed.
Well, yes, it would.
Oh, what is
Google Maps
Oh.
is pretty good with that. They use
We need
Waze.
to wrap
Yeah.
this up. We're done.
That's sort of why they have those maps. They tell you which one to. But it's fine.
Nonetheless, Delta,
You got home eventually.
I love you so much. I come to you even when I don't need to come to
It
you.
gave us a good
okay?
story. It gave us a good story.
Allie, we need to get you like a
Trudell's
Thomas
like,
Brothers guide.
I've been
Old-
home
old
for
school.
15 minutes. I'm like, well, I'm catching a flight.
Damn, I could have gone in and out in the time that it
Wow.
would have taken.
Seriously.
Yeah.
You could have ended up in Sherman Oaks or something.
Or Jack in the Box, actually.
Yeah.
Could have gone to Jack in the Box.
Jack
I
in
was
the
like,
box.
I was
Yeah.
so excited getting off that exit, and I was like, well, damn it! Now I gotta go through the terminals.
You were so close.
All right, thanks to all of you for listening to Lakeshow Podcast presented by Jack in the Box. If
Drew,
you
you
like what you
tried.
hear,
You tried,
leave
dude.
us a rating and
We all
review on
tried.
your
Not your
favorite
fault.
podcast
Not your
app. We
fault.
want to hear from you. Send us your questions. Hit us up on X at Relay Clifton, at Mike_Bresnahan, and at Lakers Reporter, and at Gator3, of course. Until next week.